If you don't mind, yeah.
I can if you need to.
If you wouldn't mind, that would be great. Okay, so we're calling the meeting to order at 2:01. We do have a quorum. We have 4 members present. Whether the meeting was properly posted, can someone verify that?
I will.
Okay. All right. We have a 5-point
It's
agenda.
101 here, not 201. Just open the meeting at 101.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm in New York, so it's 2:01. Yes, I was looking at my computer, but it's on New York time. All right, so we have a 5-point agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
All right, motion by Voice,
I'll second.
second by Turk. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have an agenda. All right, so I think I will turn it over to Mr. Day. Are you sort of?
Yeah, I can get
running the
things
show?
started.
Yeah.
I'll get things started here. Just we've got general communications. Gary Pelletier here with general communications to do their presentation first here, and we've got kind of an agenda where we want to give them about 30 minutes of an hour here or so to kind of present what they wish to present about their proposal and their system and equipment and their company. We've got some standard questions and then some open time after that. So for questions. So Gary, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, thank you, Mike. With me today, again, Gary Pelletier with General Communications. I'm out of Madison. John Eckert, our system engineer. He's in our Milwaukee office. And then I also have Rick Krasnowski. He's our sales rep for the area that currently works with the county. I do have a little presentation I put together for this. And again, there'll be plenty of time if you want to ask questions during the presentation. Feel free. Otherwise, I know we'll have time here at the end to do that. So I will share my screen, and I'm hoping I share the right one here since, let's see here. Okay. Is it sharing? Let's see.
Yeah, we're seeing it.
Are you seeing the full screen or the screen with 2 screens?
Full screen.
Yeah,
Just
just
says
a full-
countywide public simulcast
Yep,
radio.
that's it. Perfect. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. So again, Rick has joined us as a sales rep, but little information.
And we lost your screen.
Yep, I see that. Let's just see it. Okay, here we go. We do have 5 locations now. We've grown quite a bit over the last few years. Madison, Milwaukee, Eau Claire, Wisconsin Rapids just joined us in January. And then we have an office down in McHenry, Illinois with a company called Radicom. We have approximately 70 employees. We've been in business over 50 years. General Communications, I think, has been incorporated since 1980, but our roots date back to the 60s.
Gary, I'm not seeing it. If
You're not, we lost it?
is everybody else seeing it still?
I'm not seeing it yet.
Okay, let me just shrink this down and hit.
We get a real nice look at you, Gary. Now, not that that's
thank
bad.
you.
There we go.
Now, there it is.
Are you actually seeing now the full screen again?
It says vendor history right now.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
So now you see the screen with the state?
Yes.
There we go. Okay, so there's what I was highlighting, our 5 locations. And then a little history with the county. Evans Communications, Evans Industrial was a longtime service provider with the Richland County for many years, back into the 80s that I can tell. There's a local technician, Jim Gotch, that lived in the area that took care of a lot of the stuff within Richland Center and the county. General Communications purchased Evans in 2004. With that, Jim Gotch came along and continued to do the service in the county. In 2006, we worked with the county on a competitive bid to replace the dispatch council. And then throughout that time, throughout 06 to roughly 15, we've slowly replaced some base stations in the county because the current base stations were out of date, and during the narrowband process in 2012, which caused a lot of coverage issues, we continue to replace some base stations. So the county sort of has a hodgepodge of some Motorola bases and some Harris base stations. We currently provide the county with mobiles and portables, as well as we do the squad builds now with the county as well. And we still have some service agreements with the Sheriff's Department, Emergency Management, and the Richland Center Fire Department. So we come over there on a regular basis to do work. Here's a little bit of the system overview. Our site are designed to come up with the 95% coverage, incorporated 10 sites, 9 of them being transmit and receive sites, 1 of them being a receive only site. And then there's a couple alternatives that we offered also, because in the RFP it was asked for some alternatives to save some money with a reduction in some coverage. So we came up with both a 9-site and a 6-site alternative. All the options are 6-channel simulcast with the 4 channels for your P25 digital, 1 channel for paging, and then the highway channel. And then also an IP-based dispatch console and a ring microwave system. So here are the 10 sites that we selected. And when we looked at selecting sites, we were looking at some of the existing sites that we knew had very good coverage. And also some sites that were favorable with leases that the county currently had in place. And obviously Richland Center, you've got a building that you use up there along with the tower, which is a great anchor site for the system. So we recommend that. Also in Eagle, that's actually in Iowa County, but it's over the border, covers the riverbanks really well, and covers to the south. So we kept that site on the list as well because of the coverage of that. Bunker, Sylvan, and Westport. So all of those are pretty much owned by Richland Grant Telephone. I know Bunker Hill says Laval Telephone, but it is a subsidiary, I think, with Richland Grant. Currently, Bunker and Sylvan, you have existing leases with and some towers. And then Westport, we actually put in a simulcast paging transmitter at that site for Grant County about 10 years ago, and I believe they still use the tower. After talking with John Bartz from Richland Grant Telephone, they don't use the towers anymore themselves, and they would be interested in selling those towers to the county, which could be a cost savings in the long run, owning the towers rather than leasing. There was a nice leased tower near Sylvan, but adding in that leased tower near Sylvan added just less than 1% coverage in the areas. So it seemed like it made more sense using the existing Sylvan tower. Ash Ridge is a state-owned tower, so most likely that'll be a free site for the county to use. And then covering the Lone Rock area and down in the southeast, you really need a tower in that area. There's not a tower that we could find that covers that area well. And that's where we recommend that you put up a tower in the Gotham area. And the county would own it. There is some land owned by the town of Buena Vista in that area that we put our tower in during our design. Obviously, that can change depending on what land is available. And then the last 3 towers, Blue River, Ithaca, and Rockbridge, are all owned by an M3 Hilbert Towers. They were put up for AT&T and FirstNet. But those would have to be leased towers. The Rockbridge, the last one, is a receive only. And as we go on, you'll see what that one tower does for the county. So there's the kind of the 10 site system. I kind of put the sites in geographically a little bit so you can kind of get an idea of where everything sits. The blue, the two things that are blue, those represent sites that will have basically the master simulcast and voting, and one will be the master, and then one would be a redundant site in case the master was lost out of the site. Rockbridge, that was added only as a receive site to finish off that 95+% coverage in the county. And without it, you drop about 1% to about 94.5. So we needed to add that one site to get that 95%. And here's what it would look like with the 9-site design. Your coverage for indoor would drop to 94.5%. Where on the other slide, I believe the coverage was 95.6. So you gain 1.1% by adding Rockbridge in the area. And I'm going to show you just a couple maps. I don't know how many of you looked through the RFP itself, but just wanted to highlight some of these things. And then the 6-site design drops your indoor coverage to 90%, still giving you almost 98% outdoor coverage. But the indoor would drop to 90.8%, but you would eliminate several sites here to the west. And there's kind of a highlight of that. 10 sites on mobiles, you pretty much get the same mobile coverage whether you do 10, 9, or 6. Outdoor coverage, you don't see a lot of difference. It's only 1% difference between a 6-site and a 10-site, but it's the indoor coverage that those extra sites really help. And that's why I have those in red. So 9 sites drops you to 94.5. And then for paging, same thing. We still have really good outdoor paging. But your paging on the 6-site will drop below 95% if you decide to go that route for the savings. And then here's kind of what that looks like. Like I said, mobile coverage, excellent throughout the county. And this red line represents a 1-mile ring around the county. And we still have great coverage on both of those. Now when you get into portable indoors, I kind of compared so you can see side by side the 10 and the 9, and you can see kind of where Rockbridge is here on the left, but it's not on the right. So you can see some areas around Rockbridge that lacks on some coverage. And then here's the comparison of the 9 to the 6. So you kind of see by losing those sites on the west, you definitely lose some in the Boaz area and a little bit in the Sylvan area. But none of them really help much in Viola that we'll talk about a little bit as well. And there's the outdoor coverage for portable radios. Again, going from 9 to 6 sites doesn't, and I didn't even put the 10 to 9 because it was the same. So you drop just a little bit. You still have good coverage. It's still around Boaz, and to the west there is where you drop off some outdoor coverage if you drop down to a 6-site system from a 9. And then there's what indoor paging looks like. 9-site, and it's only 9 sites because we never had a transmitter at Rockbridge. That's a receive-only site. So for paging, we only had 9 sites, and transmit is 6. So you can kind of see an idea of where you lack some coverage. And there's outdoor paging. Pretty good outdoor paging coverage throughout the county with this design. And the mobile coverage, pretty much 3 sites covers the entire county 100% on mobiles. There was no portable coverage requirement for the highway department. So just having one to the north, south, and central fills in the entire county. There were some questions that came back to us on some 3 different areas on some detailed maps. And one of those was Lone Rock. And we just wanted to go over Lone Rock coverage is really good. Having that site that would be a brand new site in the Gotham area, that would definitely cover Lone Rock. Lone Rock is terrible now. Even with mobile radios, there's some areas in Lone Rock that don't work. They added a fill-in repeater down in that area to help that because it has been such a bad area in the past. So we addressed that with a new Greenfield Tower site. And that is the outdoor coverage. It's really good. And then Casanova was another area. So a 9-site system and a 6-site, you do see quite a little bit of a difference here, but definitely that is an area that indoor coverage, you are going to have some areas that are going to be, John, is that red about a 2.0 DAQ, I think you said?
That is correct. The green is RFP, that's for a 3-4 DAQ.
Not able to hear.
We
Yeah,
can't hear you.
John, your voice cut out.
Now we can't hear you at all.
Yeah,
I'm not talking. Is that better?
there we go. Yep, that's better.
Okay. The RFP called for a DAQ, which is digital audio quality of a 3.4. That's everything in green. 3.4 means like we're talking, we don't have to repeat anything. No noise, no artifacting. The yellow is a 3.0 because your radio coverage goes below the 3.4 DAQ and does receive below that. 3.0 DAQ, there's some repetition required, some noise in the background, but certainly understandable. The red is broken up. So green meets the requirements for the RFP. Yellow goes beyond that and gives you some radio transmission areas. And red it'd be severely broken up. So anything green and yellow, you'd have good radio coverage. Red, not so much. So that's the different colors.
Yep. And then here's the outdoor coverage. So outdoors, it works really well in that area. But it's when you start getting inside ATV buildings that you're going to lose some signal in that area. And then the last one. This one does definitely look a lot pretty ugly. Viola is in a kind of a fishbowl. Yeah, it's right over a ridge. Very hard to work in that area. That's our indoor coverage. And then the outdoor coverage between a 9 and a 6. So you can kind of get an idea. You get a little better coverage, but you are still going to have some areas. I can't remember. Do you guys dispatch and page for that area, or is that done through Vernon?
We dispatch, but the paging is to burn for Viola, I believe.
That is correct. Yeah, paging is through Vernon.
Yes. So we did look at there are some challenges with that. It is in a valley. There is one tower in the area, which is also owned by M3 Hilbert. That is new. I think it was put up a couple years ago. But just trying to do a microwave path to this tower, the only site that we really would be able to talk to, and that is that Ash Ridge DOT site. But these are at the very top of both towers. We're at 300 foot on the Viola and 300 foot on Ash Ridge, and we're just getting over this peak. So here's Viola in the bowl right over here on the left, and Ash Ridge is way up here. So trying to do a microwave path is going to be, not impossible, but we'd have to have microwave dishes on the top of both towers. Or we can look at a fiber alternative if you ever wanted to add a site in that area. If there's fiber that can be ran to that tower, that could possibly fill that in without a microwave. So just wanted to talk about those sites a little bit more and the challenges in trying to get coverage into that area. I don't believe you have very good coverage in there now, and probably vehicle repeaters help supplement that. So a little bit about the base station equipment we're using. The TB9400 base station is a second generation base station. It is IP connectivity. It's got everything built-in central voter, built-in simulcasting, and it's software upgradable. So if you want to start an analog now and go to P25 digital at a later date, then it's just a software feature that we can log in, and we can do it remotely as well and add those to the base stations. And same with some of the features. Phase 2 someday, if you ever want to do trunking, that's an upgrade. And the linear simulcast modulation that we also proposed is also just a software upgrade. So one base station takes you from now and well into the future. And you can put in the footprint is very small on this as well. You can have 6 channels pretty much in one rack. And kind of get you an idea of how other vendors would do this. One base station here for Tate, and then on the left, normally they need a repeater, a site controller, and a comparator. So as you can see, the weight is a lot less, but also the wattage. So you're saving about 200 watts on that, which is definitely going to save you money and utility bills in the long run. And it reduces installation time and other points of failure that you could have. And then when you kind of build out a site, I can build out a 3-channel, 4-site system by just having the base stations, where other vendors will have a lot more equipment, multiple voters, multiple site controllers at the main and the redundant. So a lot less footprint, and again, a lot less power requirements that are needed out at the tower site. So Tate Radio is a company we've been working with for a number of years. Harris base stations that you guys have in the county now, half of your bases, I said before, were Harris and half are Motorola. And Harris, they were once what was GE Radio back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s and 70s. And now it's owned by Harris Corporation, which is a large defense contractor. And I should say L3 Harris. And they actually stopped making analog base stations, so they were using the Tate product as well. So we've got quite a few of these. Rock County, we're finishing this year, completing their entire county, replacing everything. That's been a 5-year project. And this year will be the last that we replaced everything with the simulcast Tate equipment. Jefferson County, same thing. We're replacing their county right now. Hope to have drive testing done this summer. Washburn County, that's a new simulcast system. They just switched over their law channel this week to the new simulcast system, and it's working better than the coverage maps predicted. So the customer is very, very happy. Juneau County, we're putting in a simulcast paging for them using this. Marathon County, Chippewa, St. Croix, they all use this backbone. And then we have some police departments as well, Middleton, Chippewa Falls, Monona, and there's some others, but I just kind of put some highlights on there that are actually using the simulcast. The simulcast works really good. Audio quality is excellent. And Tate is also known as a big provider for utilities. So they currently work with Alliant Energy, the Alliant Energy radio system that covers 2 states and 54,000 square miles. There's 122 sites, and they're made up of pretty much the same base station. It's just a different software. They use a format called DMR instead of P25, but they're running a 122 site system, and that's operational today. So there's actually Tate equipment in your county on the Alliant towers, or on where their tower sites are. So, and then it was just awarded this week that We Energy group, which is made up of a lot of customers. That's from We Energies to People's Gas down in Chicago area. And we'll be working with Tate to install about 85 sites through 3 straight states, Upper Peninsula, Wisconsin, and Chicago, with 85 sites of Tate equipment with more than 3,000 subscribers. So they definitely have a big name and have done a lot of stuff and have the experience to do projects like this. For the dispatch consoles, we've been working with the company for a number of years, over 10 now, Mindshare. They make a true IP-based dispatch console. It provides your voice and paging. We quoted the 11 radio interfaces that was required in the RFP. We also have door controls, and there's the P25 interface. So before, where you have some phone lines going up to the radio tower site now in Richland Center, everything will be replaced by network through the microwave, which we'll talk about here shortly. There's also an optional intercom interface. It wasn't asked for in the RFP, but when we put in the dispatch console 10 years ago, we had the intercoms on the dispatch console. And then I believe they put in a used console a few years ago and lost, I think, some of those intercoms. So if you wanted to put intercoms back on the dispatch, that is an option to do as well.
He did not.
Go ahead.
He did not lose them.
You don't use them?
They didn't lose them.
They did lose them. So that is something you can put back on this console. There is an intercom option.
Nah.
Oh, you did not use them. Okay, I thought you said you did. Okay. And then I didn't see it in the RFP that you wanted it again. So, and then here are a few public safety customers as well as some hospitals that use the Mindshare. Rock County is our largest deployment here in the state with 15 positions. Plus, we're adding another 5 in their backup right now. So they're going to have about 20 positions when they're done this year. Jefferson, Washburn, Watertown. So quite a few. We've actually got them at the Wisconsin National Guard in their trailer that deploy out for disasters in the state. They've got these councils in as well. So they're proven. What I like about it, I think there's lower cost of ownership. Where some other councils, they recommend after 5 years of doing a whole refresh, which you're pretty much buying a whole new council system. The ones we've put out have been going for 10 years before we do a refresh. So the microwave system, to get to all of these towers, we did develop a ring microwave system, but there are challenges with some of the hills in the area and the tower heights that we can only go so high for a ring. So there are a couple spurs, one to Rockbridge if you decide you want that 10th site, and then Ithaca, and the same over to the Gotham area. That is a really, you cannot get from Ithaca to Gotham, so we had to do a spur off of the Eagle. Those spurs would be a redundant microwave, so it had basically 2 transmitters and receivers, and 2 for the whole system. So if you lose one, it will automatically fail over to the others. And the difference in the color is just the frequency. The green are the 6 gigahertz and the blue is 11 gig, if any. And the microwave, we're putting this in right now in Jefferson County. It's made by a company called Microwave Networks out of Texas. They have, it's called the Proteus. The RFP did call for an all indoor electronics. So everything you see there is inside. But there is, and I put that down as a cost savings alternative, and we're doing this in Jefferson County, and that is doing a split mount. So you have the electronics inside, but the RF amplifier itself sits attached to the antenna on the tower. What this does is it provides, you only need smaller cables. You don't need the large waveguide antenna cables to run up the tower, and you don't need the dehydrators to keep these airline dry. So it reduces the loading on the tower. And especially when you're doing leased sites or even adding on existing sites, adding on waveguide can bring up the cost of the lease rate as well as just the cost of material. Waveguide probably sells for about $15 a foot, where the other cable is about $2 a foot. So much smaller cable when if you want to do a split mount. And with the ring configuration, I don't see a lot of disadvantages with going that, but I think it saved about $300,000. I'd have to look at the RFP, but significant cost savings by doing a split mount configuration. So, and that's kind of all I have on the foot stompers of the system and some highlights. And at this time, if there are any questions, then I'll stop sharing as well.
I have a question. This is
Yes.
Melissa Rock. So on the slide you had when we were talking about the dispatch consoles, you had a section that says door controls. Was
Yeah.
that jail door controls?
Well, I believe they asked for about 20 different controls. They're basically contact closures to open a door. It could be the lobby door. It could be anything else. I'm not sure what it was intended in the RFP, but they asked for about, I want to say 20. Mike, do you remember how many door controls were asked for?
Just probably standard amount. I don't remember the number there.
Okay.
The difference is, I think Gary's, a little bit for Gary's understanding or GenComm's understanding is currently the radio console, it accesses or it controls the jail doors.
Mhm.
But we're and we know radio consoles can do that. It's not a robust system, but in Richland County, we're also looking at separating those two out for other reasons, and then also, because the county's also looking at having to refresh cameras and control systems in
Okay.
the jail. So, yeah, it certainly can be used for that. But again, it's kind of controlling the old jail relays that are in place today, which are very aged, I think, and not necessarily the primary use of a dispatch console.
Yeah, so we have controlled doors before, and I believe when we put in the console 10 years ago, we were controlling doors at that time as well.
Probably the same relays.
Yes. Those come in the console, the box they do for the relay control. It comes in 18 relays per box. And I think they were asking for like 20 in the RFP. So I had to do 2 boxes to get from 18 to 20. I had to add 1 more. So if less than 18 are used, then we can cut down on 1 controller box for that.
Okay, then I have a couple more questions. So as far as the coverage levels that we have, so that the Wiscom Tower that I think the Ash Creek Ridge or whatever you call it, Wiscom Tower, I mean, it's my understanding in listening to all of our sheriff and other people speak is that there's really no good feeling that there will be any room in that tower above 100 feet or something, or if at all. So like, what would your plans be if any of the towers that you've got listed as possibilities, do you already have any kind of backup plan as to what you would do and how that would affect the overall cost of the project?
Yeah, well, we're working on a lot of state towers with other counties, and the way the state normally does it, the very top is usually set up for receive, and then the next level they have our transmit antennas. So normally we can usually get to the top right away just because it's reserved for receive only. They don't want transmits up there. And then after that, I mean, I haven't had a problem in the past going on any of their towers, or you can work with combining equipment. If they've got channels at the tower and we've got channels at the tower, we can share antennas. As it is, this type of system does do combining of antennas. So that's something we could work with the state with combining and sharing antennas that they use. We currently do that at some other towers as well. So I do believe that is a tower that we could work with the state. We have 2 of our employees are former state employees that have great relationships with them, and they feel pretty confident that we can still get on there. And we could look for another tower in the area, but that definitely is a really good site for that area.
Okay, and then my last question is that in looking at, I'm still very concerned about the maps you're presenting for Viola and Cazenovia. If we don't have better coverage than we have now in those areas, we're going to get crucified as a board for spending this much money and not getting those areas covered. So what needs to change in order for those
And
red to go away? How do we make that red go away, or at least get significantly better?
Yeah, like I showed you in that one map, there is a way that we can get to another tower there to provide some channels over there for better coverage. And I think the same would fix Cazenovia as well. There are more towers in the Cazenovia area than there are over there by Viola. So those are sites that could be added, especially if we're like, hey, if we don't want to go to 10 sites and go to 6, maybe we can add 2 more sites back in to fix coverage in those areas. We recently did that with Jefferson County. We had a plan and then they're like, hey, we'd like a little more coverage in this area. And they were able to find a tower and work out a lease deal with, and we were able to get more stuff in there. So as that system went, I think it grew 1 or 2 sites. Is that right, Mike? Jefferson, at least? Yeah. So once we started going, they decided, hey, what can we do to add? So we could definitely work on looking at some coverage from some sites closer in that area.
Yeah, because those, I mean, other than Richland Center, those are our 2 most populated areas. And so not getting coverage in 2 of our biggest population centers
sometimes
would be a drawback for sure of the system that we need to address.
Yeah, and I know sometimes those are called out in the RFP that says, hey, we'd like 15 dB indoor coverage in these, and it was only brought up at Richland Center, but definitely we could go back to the drawing board and come up with a plan to add a site over in those areas. And some of the other things, and I mentioned about fiber, that if we can't get a microwave link, there's always an option for fiber. And in talking to Richland Grand Telephone, they have fiber to all of those tower sites that you're currently at now. So if they ever want to look at fiber, even as a backup, but if we can't do microwave, a lot of times we can do a fiber link.
Yeah, Gary, along that vein, have you guys done some public safety systems using fiber connectivity, or how comfortable are you with that?
We have right now in Dane County. We're using fiber to connect some of the towers for Dane County for their simulcast system. And I know that, I guess it's just from the sheriff's department up to the Hill and Jefferson that we have some fiber, but the microwave is not, or I should say the simulcast is not running on that. But in Dane County, we are having simulcast running on fiber.
Leased circuits or dedicated fiber?
I believe it's dedicated. They are with the, I have to take a look who owns that fiber. I thought it was part of the state that owned that fiber, maybe part of the Badger network.
Okay.
All right, are there other supervisors that have questions? Supervisor Frank, Supervisor Turk, Supervisor Boyce?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Bob.
No, Barb, go ahead and take care.
I'm just a little confused. If you say we have 95% coverage, outdoor, I'll talk outdoor coverage, and yet we don't have coverage in Viola, are we talking acreage or people when you say 95%?
That's acreage.
Okay. Okay.
So the RFP identified the county's borders as the coverage areas. So that's really the task that the vendors had to respond to.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Supervisor Frank, or did you have more?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Supervisor Frank.
Yeah, a couple of questions. My first one is, what other counties have you seen that you worked in that are similar, that have some of the terrain and some of the challenges that we have? But can you give me some examples of how those are and how they've gone?
I know in Washington County, the Kettle Moraine area, we had some challenges doing simulcast. And that was, John, you worked on that design. What were your biggest challenges?
Again, yes, it's in the Kettle Moraine area, so you have the hills and the valleys. There, the county provided all the towers, so they already had good tower locations. We did have to put up one on the west end of the county. That was a 300-foot tower. But once you get the towers in the right spot, it does cover well. And we did identify some nice towers. Like you said, the Wiscom tower is on a good location. It just doesn't reach down into Viola. And probably the only way to get coverage in there is to put a tower right in Viola.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the things is if we can get the towers in the right areas. And the other issue is then the microwave. Even if you can find a tower, now can you make a microwave hop work? Like we talked about, the only one we could see for Viola is coming off of the state tower, and you'd have to be at the very top of the state tower. And the odds of that, I'm not sure if we can do that with them. So, and that's where sometimes maybe you have to look at fiber or something else. But those are some of the challenges. Even if you find the tower, now you got to make sure you have a good circuit microwave or networking path, because the whole thing is a big network.
So in talking about Viola, Vernon County, has there been any discussion, or is that kind of the next step as to any resource sharing, anything with Vernon? Because I'm sure they're going to have the same challenges.
Yeah, they obviously have coverage for paging into that area too. And then sometimes we've worked with adjacent counties to share a tower resource that they may have to work off of. So that's definitely a possibility.
That's all I have right now.
Gary, along that line of questions too, you did speak a lot about I think three of the sites are M3 Hilbert. Have you had some interactions with that company? How favorable are they to public safety on their tower? Any experience there?
I haven't had experience with them particular. I've just heard in the past that they've been favorable because they put it up for kind of for FirstNet. And some counties, when they provided permits, they worked some deal out that they county be able to use those towers if needed. I'm not sure if Richland County worked on any of those with some of those, but definitely I know a lot of folks in the county, there was, especially in certain areas, they did not like all the new towers going up. So I'm not sure if they were able to get any favorable terms on those. But I mean, I try to avoid a lot of lease towers just because of the cost over time. But you know, some of them are good to work with public safety. And Mike, I think you've had some interaction, haven't you? I don't know if good or bad. Mike Day, have you had an interaction with them before?
Not M3, I don't think, unless they go, I mean,
it's part of Bug Tussle.
Oh, it is part of Bug Tussle. Okay, so Bug Tussle has been favorable.
Yes.
In Greene County.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So was there any other questions from, because we do have some standard questions that we were going to ask. The first question, I think you've already answered. It was in Richland County supporting emergency responder systems. What is your current relationship and history? You went through that in your presentation. The second one was, please describe the most challenging coverage design project you have supported and why.
And yeah, we talked about a little bit about the Washington County one with the Kettle Moraine area. Trying to get, yep.
And then the next one is, please describe any previous project of client support your company was involved with that required unique ideas to support aging or failing equipment.
Well, luckily, I mean, we've been able to keep aging and failing equipment online for a while because, as I talked about before, right now we're just finishing a 5-year project in Rock County to replace everything. Well, we don't just throw that equipment out sometimes. So we keep some of that equipment for spares to keep our other customers going until we can get them switched out. So we never throw everything away. We normally have parts to keep things supported for a long time. So during these phases where we can keep, whether it's Motorola or Harris, we can keep that equipment going for a long time.
I mean, I think that's what you're doing for us now, are you not?
Oh, yes, we are.
Yeah. Okay.
Some of the stuff is ended life, but we still have parts here and we're going to keep them. We have a 35,000 square foot building in Madison and we've got a couple mezzanines full of spare parts.
All right. And then the last question.
Can I jump in a little bit, maybe to give them a little more opportunity to expand on a thought I had there with that question? You know, have you ever had a project, Gary, where you just had to start replacing equipment at a site or something just to keep a system alive? Or in Richland County's case, where we're coming from, that is potentially a challenge with the radio consoles.
Yeah, the radio consoles actually reached out to the vendor and they said, you know, console right now could be in July. It's about, you know, 3 months to get the console in. We have so many of these consoles. I actually have a couple positions in stock that's tagged for somebody else right now. So getting consoles at a quicker time, and I saw that in the RFP, that it's something that we can very well do this summer. Get the existing or the new console in, hooked up to the old equipment because it's still backwards compatible, and then in the future start hooking up to the new channels. So, and actually in Jefferson County, we're actually hooking up a new system to their existing dispatch console. We're adding some P25 interfacing with that as well, but we're still able to work with the old and the new at the same time.
Okay, then the last question, and I think this is probably one that I'm most interested in, is what concerns you most in providing a robust public safety radio system in Richland County?
You know, I like the challenge. Every time we've done a system, maybe our maps are too conservative, but we always seem to provide better coverage than our maps do. So I feel with the maps that we've got, I think it's pretty good that I think we can provide the coverage you need and want. And if we have to add a couple more sites to help fill in those 2 cities, I think we can work with you on doing that. But the terrain, you know, I mean, the bad coverage at 5% that we're not providing, we like to have that in the fields and the valleys that normally people aren't living in. I don't like to see 5% in the populated areas. So that was a really good question that Barb had, is unfortunately, when you do the maps, they come out with the terrain and not by the people. So we'd love to provide coverage in those areas that you currently have now. But I do think, I'm not too worried, because I do think we can have the coverage that you need with the towers that we found. But I do think it will be a challenge to do Viola and Cazenovia, but I think we're up for that challenge to see what we can make work in that area.
All right. Was there any other questions from other parties that are the Sheriff's Department or Administrator Langrick or any of the other subscribers that I see have logged in?
I have one.
Is this Chief
This is,
Enable?
yes, it is.
Hi there. Go ahead.
So, I have to say that terrain is definitely an issue. I get that, but I was hoping for a lot better looking map in the Viola area. My question is this: the other sites that you're saying you could spur out and etc., are they covered under the original cost, or is that an additional add-in down the road?
Well, that could be an add-in unless we, like we said, we did give you a 10-site design, but if we want to move some of those sites, for example, Bunker Hill, if we wanted to move that closer over to Cazenovia, then you could still go with the cost. Now in Viola, that I think it does need another tower. Trying to get a tower closer to that and still cover that northwestern area. And we can see if there are some other towers besides the state tower that's maybe in the area that could cover that. But just looking at the antenna site registration, there's not a lot of options really close to Viola. But that's something that we can definitely look at. But yeah, if you go to a 6 or 9 site design, maybe you want to take that cost savings and put it towards another site, or on the split mount microwave, where you save a few $100,000, you could put that money maybe for a different site in another area. That way you're not spending more than what the RFP we've already quoted.
Okay, because currently Sylvan Tower is what is used, and since the leaves came out, I can't hear anything. I have to turn on the computer in the car on Broadcastify to hear Richland. So
Okay.
to have that as part of the plan is not going to work, in my opinion.
The Sylvan Tower?
That's correct.
Yeah, there is a new tower down the street, which it would be a leased tower. We did do coverage maps off of that leased tower. It didn't provide really anything over in Viola, and it didn't really increase a lot of the coverage at all in that area. And that's why we decided to go back to the Sylvan Tower, only because it would be a lot less cost of ownership to the county.
Right. The other thing I wanted to add in is the other emergency services in Viola have expressed for years that they would like Richland to have the capability to page them. They've expressed that again. There's other options there, but yeah, I just wanted to see if that would be covered under the cost, because to me, you would think anyway that the maps and the cost would have been solided up for today, for the presentation. But if there's going to be hidden costs down the road, that concerns me a bit.
Well, we responded to the RFP providing 95% coverage to the county. Now, maybe if the RFP would have had something about wanting, 8 or 10 dB within those two communities, then we definitely would have addressed that. But it wasn't called out. But I mean, we can definitely go back and change some site design and see if we can get those two communities with better coverage. I mean, Lone Rock was also another community that wasn't covered, and we were able to cover that.
Sure. Just we're copping up there too. I would have thought it would have been amongst everything, but I understand.
Gary,
Oh, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
I was just going to say, in your design work investigation, did you guys see did you anticipate any greenfield sites, new sites? Or did you have a feeling that those would work better in some areas?
Well, yeah, a greenfield site obviously over by Viola could be an option then, just because there's not a lot of options over there as it is. So if we have one in the county, that would definitely be a plus. And then by bunker, if bunker was taller, whether you take bunker and make that just a higher site than it is now, that would play a lot better than in the Casanova. So you could possibly take an existing site like bunker and make it a Greenfield site by replacing the tower.
All right, are there any other questions from other subscribers or the Sheriff's Department?
I do have a question.
Supervisor Voice, go ahead.
I came into this late, so some of this terminology is new to me. Can you explain to me what you're saying by a Greenfield site?
Mike, do you want to take that one?
Sure, yeah. A greenfield site is a term we use for a location that we believe would be a good coverage location, but there's no existing radio tower structure there. So the county would build any greenfield sites in the design. And so at that point, you've got to be able to acquire land or lease land and then pay for the construction of a tower site at that. So considered part of our civil costs.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
No, appreciate the opportunity to present this, and we look forward to continuing our relationship with Richland County.
Well, thank you very much for taking your time today. That was very informative, and we will be making our decision soon, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, so I'm just going to do a little housekeeping with MIS, but so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Barb, so are we logging off for this now and then?
Yeah, it's a separate session.
Okay. Do we want to, are we going to have any discussion, or are we really, this is informational purposes only, was my understanding?
I think this is informational only, and then we were gonna come back later, maybe at a separate meeting or at LEJC and discuss it.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. And when we're all in person together. Yeah. Okay. So we can log off now, and then we'll come back on at.
We should adjourn. Actually, part of the agenda means we have to adjourn.
Right. Yep. Yep. So we will adjourn to the next meeting, which I was going to say 3:30, but it's 2:30 your time, right?
That's 2:30.
Okay. All right. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn until 2:30. Actually, are we adjourning period, and then we're having a new meeting at 2:30?
Correct. New meeting at 2:30. We're adjourning this meeting completely, and then we will start a new meeting at 2:30.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll make the motion to adjourn.
This is Bob.
Do I have a second? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right. And will everyone, the same, all four supervisors, will we be able to be on for the one at 2:30 as well?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay, see you guys in a bit.
Thank you.
All right, bye.